So I recently received this puzzle through my Hoefnagel rental subscription. It's by BCB Puzzles, who recently rebranded to Biglands Puzzles. It's called Teapot and Teacups, a Bamboozle puzzle. So exactly how does a Bamboozle puzzle work? Let's see. So, during the sorting phase, I noticed a bunch of large, chunky shapes that did not look like puzzle pieces. I set them aside and realized they were all teapot or teapot-related images. Most of the remaining shapes were clearly interlocking puzzle pieces. A majority of them were green and yellow, so I picked out a few that were not and assembled them to create a couple of girls. I then realized that within the green and yellow pieces, there were two different textures. One was a chevron or zigzag texture, and the other one reminded me of chunky pool noodles. I could see the circular ends of the pool noodles, so I tried to use that to line up the pieces all the same way, before finally using variation in the cutting to match up pieces. This part was slow going, so I jumped back to finishing up the rest of the non-yellow or green pieces. Some of the girl pieces had bits of the pool noodles on them, so I used that as a starting point for connecting those sections. I now had a guess as to what those white patterned pieces might be. Although they all looked like edge pieces, I figured that they might form the handle of a giant teapot. Not only did the guess turn out to be correct, but it also ended up connecting to the girl in purple as well, which told me that the remaining white pieces with patterns on them formed the spout. And naturally, that's where the all-white chunk of steam would be coming from. So now that parts of the left and right side of the puzzle was in place, I could start working on the rest of the edge. I now started orienting the pieces with all the chevrons going the same way, and the edge of the puzzle became a lot easier to visualize. There's nothing really unusual about this part, just regular puzzle edge building technique here. Find a common texture, find a common color, and then, once the edge was more or less complete, I started trying to fill in the yellow and green stripes. Now that the bottom border was in place, it was easy to figure out where the stripe boundaries were and narrow down the search for each piece. I was definitely doing the piece finding technique as opposed to my normal spot finding method. Given how similar all the pieces were, that is without any indication of where the location might be, it made more sense to look for a piece that has half a knob of green, for example. In puzzling, the more techniques that one is open to using, the faster and easier it is to solve a puzzle. And with that, you can start to see the giant teapot under a tea cozy take shape. Do people even still use tea cozies anymore? Maybe it's an English thing. Look at that frame and how it holds together. That is the magic of hand-cut puzzles. Now, the next stage of a bamboozled puzzle is fitting all the remaining pieces into the interior of the frame that you built. It is very tricky because Brookie Biglands, the creator behind BCB, which is now Biglands Puzzles, uses dropouts in her cutting. So a space that looks like it might need something with a stack of bumps, we find that the correct piece leaves the top bump completely empty. I use a lot of trial and error when starting out in a puzzle like this. There is an art to visualizing the sort of shape that might partly fill a hole. Given that my visual memory is pretty poor, I do a lot of physical testing. I look for a hole that might be a spout or the knob on a lid, then scan the teapot shapes to find one that might have the right roundness or angle. You can see that this is a pretty slow process. Some people might find it frustrating, but I actually find this very meditative and incredibly satisfying when the right fit is found. And besides, it is always good to spend time practicing one's weak points. And once you've placed a few of the pieces, there are fewer pieces left and fewer spaces where they may go. And yes, this applies to normal jigsaws too. But this means that the process speeds up and gets even more satisfying towards the end. Sometimes I get lucky and notice how two unplaced pieces join with each other, and you get a sense for knowing when a fit is right. A way that some people consider cheating, which I only use when desperate, is to flip over the pieces and check the grain of the wood on the back to see if it matches. When I join two pieces like that to form a bigger, weirdly shaped chunk, it actually makes it easier to place because now there are so many fewer spots where it can go. And now with the last two, it's done. Check out those tricky dropouts. When the pieces fit together, see how perfect the fit is, and it leaves no doubt. A good puzzle should be challenging without frustrating, and I think bamboozled puzzles are now hitting that sweet spot for me. and the colors are so bright and interesting. I always have fun with these puzzles. And they fit together so well, you can pick the whole thing up. So I hope you enjoyed the explanation. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this in the future, I hope you consider subscribing. In the meantime, happy puzzling!